But as I said, speaking of incompetence, in the aftermath of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, now we're almost 2 weeks after this now, it gets worse every day, folks. There's more questions. How many shooters now? Because when we reported the other day, when the now resigning director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, was in front of the Congressional Oversight Committee, the House Oversight Committee, she suggested there might have been more than one shooter. That was about the only piece of information she allowed to get through the Velcro lips. And of course, she was an utter disaster, not only at the committee meeting, but during the day of this event. She clearly was not in control in any sense of the word. And there's more coming out about this every day. We know, for instance, look at this report here. This is the guy who was arrested for a very short period because he was on the same bike that was at the scene of the attempted assassination, believed to be owned by the shooter, Thomas Crooks. Now, did this guy steal his bike? What is he doing with the same bike, with the same knapsack on it? Let's have a look at this. This is some kid on TikTok who interviewed this guy because he heard he had been arrested and questioned by the FBI and the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. What the hell are they doing involved in this at all? They're all a bunch of incompetent organizations that are politically motivated and are nothing more than mechanisms of the Democratic Party and the Biden-Harris administration. Listen to this.
What do you think about me being detained for a couple hours because they thought I was involved?
That happened?
Yeah. Bomb squad had me for about an hour. Then the ATF had me. Then they took me in to sit and talk to the FBI. ATF come back in and says, Mr. Evans, we're getting you out of here.
They thought you were the shooter.
No, they thought I had the bomb.
Did you have the bomb?
I don't know if they ever found a bomb.
Interesting response.
You'd be scared if you saw what's going on in my mind.
How come?
Because there's a lot of shit going on up there. I could fix everything.
Like in the country or mechanically?
Mechanically. I could fix a lot of shit and make things right again.
It's a pretty sweet bike.
A buddy of mine gave it to me a couple years ago and decided I'm going to ride it cross country.
Have you done it yet?
I'm on my journey now.
Oh, what?
Now I'm stalled here.
Where are you going?
Boise.
Oh, you're making it out to Idaho.
I gave myself 100 days. If we get out of here today, we're going to be at the convention tomorrow.
The Trump thing?
Yeah.
Sources telling us the last sighting of Crooks, he had a backpack, but no sign of a gun.
He had a backpack, but no sign of a gun.
Now, what does that look like? Is that the same bike? And this guy was arrested in connection with the shooting, released. What don't they want this man to say? How many people were involved in this? And this is clearly, the more you examine this, and as the days go by, it gets worse in terms of this being an inside job. Now, is that a conspiracy? Well, every time more than one person participates in the planning of an event, like a shooting or an attempted assassination, that's by definition a conspiracy. And the reason this is unraveled so quickly around the FBI, the Secret Service, the ATF, and the Biden administration is because people are doing the research themselves. And I'll show you a website here. This guy is phenomenal. He's a bit of a gun nut, but he does phenomenal research. And there's been all kinds of interesting takes on this. People have examined the audio signature, demonstrating that this is not the same gun that you're hearing. Some of the shots are closer to Trump, others are farther back. There's new footage of somebody on the water towers, not this black blob footage that we've seen originally. This is clearly an individual in a black jumpsuit of some kind who's kneeling on top of the water tower, and it looks like he has a rifle. in his hand. This is but more interesting. Let's watch this take here, because this is absolutely fascinating.
2, 3, 4, 5 right there. No more guys up here.
So he just counted 5 shell casings. You can see the timestamp here. Okay, so 5 shell casings. Listen again.
2, 3, 4, 5 right there.
Which would be where they ejected from based on the Thomas Crook's position.
No more guys up.
No more guys up here. No more guys up here. Don't let them come up here. Now, look at this timestamp. 20 minutes later.
Both sides. Looks like what, at least 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. At least 8.
And he's pointing to the other side of Thomas Crook's. How did these other shells wind up, these shell casings wind up on the other side of Thomas Crook's? We know the ejection port. 20 minutes goes by before they find the other 3. And no, don't let anybody else come up here.
So I think that was explained quite clearly. The initial examination found 5 shell casings. 20 minutes later, and nobody has been allowed to come up on the roof. There's suddenly 8. Were those planted? We haven't even seen any of this evidence, and I'm suggesting a lot of it is going to disappear, just like the crime scene site was contaminated immediately. We have people walking around, everybody taking these pictures. Looks like they're impaired. It's like watching the Blair Witch Project with the camera going in every direction. Nobody seems to know what the hell they're trying to do. There's no attempt to seal off the site. In fact, I was watching a podcast today, Benny Johnson, which I worked with Benny at the Daily Caller a few years back. He went to the site with a couple of forensic experts and discovered that there was no attempt by any of the authorities, local, state, or federal, to lock down the site and impede anybody from going on and just walking around everywhere. The site has been completely contaminated. We don't even know if they have got those shell casings anyway. We could tell if they're from different kinds of rifles because there's an acoustic. There's a signature on all bullets. In any ballistics report, you can tell if this bullet came from this gun or gun B. Anybody who's watched cop shows knows that much about ballistics. That technology has been around for a century or more. So this is all nonsense. And you've all seen the footage of this guy being cited by at least a dozen people, maybe more. People literally calling to the police, to the Secret Service, to anybody in authority to say, "Hey, there's a guy up there with a rifle, and he's looks like he's going to shoot the president." Nobody makes any attempt to stop him until he starts firing, and we know that there's probably a second shooter because the line of the bullet that grazed about 5 people doesn't look like it came from the direction of the building that Crooks was on top of. It looks like it's coming from the direction of the water tower. So all of this stinks. And by the time we get any official investigation from the FBI, which is another organization well past its prime, totally politicized, we are going to know all of the answers because there are people already working out the solution on social media. In fact, if you watch the news, the mainstream media, it's taking its cues now from social media in terms of reporting the story. Because it's social media people who are out there getting the raw data, examining what little evidence that they can get their hands on. And some of this video footage is horrible. But I can tell you, you're not going to get a straight story out of the FBI. You might get a good congressional report, but once again, it's going to be way after people have made up their minds that this was a bad inside job. Probably a combination of inside job and incompetence. No organization can be that incompetent unless there's malice involved, and clearly that's what was happening here. So it is absolutely disgusting how this has been allowed to happen. But what is even more amazing than that is that there weren't more people killed, because clearly there was perhaps two, maybe even three shooters. All of them had ample opportunity to get off a series of shots. And why they were unsuccessful is, I think, another reason why this is only explainable through divine intervention. Because I think the authorities behind this thought they had Trump in their sights, and they were going to get him, and they weren't going to rely on just one shooter the same way they didn't rely on one shooter to kill John F. Kennedy in 1963. This is another example, but in this case, the bullet did not hit its mark, and somehow all of the other bullets didn't find their mark, with the exception of that one innocent bystander, the fire chief, who's heroically saved the life of his wife and daughter. But this is a black day in American history, and I don't think we're going to. I just hope some of the pundits out there who are suggesting it ain't over for these attempts will continue against Donald Trump. I hope they're wrong. Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the Krayden's Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the Krayden resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us, because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the Krayden's Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
But you know that something historic happened that is really revealing the dark, seedy underside of American politics at the moment. So